order for me to reveal the first truth, let me tell you about a story from the Second World War. During the Second World War, military experts, they were studying the planes that came back from the battlefield, from the war. And their engineers were trying to figure out how they could reinforce their planes, make them stronger, so the enemy does not destroy them. Now, when they started examining those planes, they noticed that there were certain areas where most bullets were hitting the planes. And as you can see from the image, those were mostly in some areas like the wings and also the tail. So logically, the engineers were thinking to reinforce those areas, protect them with armor to make their planes more robust. However, there was one guy who had a completely different idea. He was a mathematician named Brahim. He pointed out something shocking. He argued that the planes that were hit in those areas and still came back told only part of the story. And the real data was in the planes that never returned. Because his argument was, all these planes that came back, they still came back although they were hit in those areas, which means those areas were not critical. And based on that, he argued that the military should reinforce the areas with no bullet holes, because those were the areas where if a bullet hits there, the plane doesn't come back, and that's where the real danger was. So following on those suggestions, the army reinforced the areas with no bullet holes, and exactly as Brahim expected, the number of planes that returned from the battlefield actually increased. So what does this story tell us about IELTS and YouTube? Well, it's exactly the same thing when it comes to the comments section. The only comments that you are seeing is a tiny fraction, and they might be native speakers. They might come from a medium of English or for other different reasons that don't necessarily represent you. What about the thousands of stories of those people who actually failed and you will never see in the comment section? Well, you don't see those comments because failure is not viral, is not something that they are proud of to comment there. So this phenomenon is known as the survivorship bias. Probably for every one person that you see commenting they scored a band of 8, there are probably 200 or 300 other people who followed the same strategy and they still couldn't score the same band. Now, because I'm an engineer, I had to dig deeper into this, and to prove my claims, I needed real data. So I went on an official IELTS website and I downloaded test statistics from IELTS. Now, when you look at the data, you could see that most people on average are going to score a band that's ranging between 5 or 6 up to a band of 7 as well in certain countries. So in order for us to consider something that is above average, we have to look at bands that are over 7.5. And this is both for the academic and also the general training. And we could see that the percentage of people who score a band of 7.5 or higher, it ranges, it depends on the country first of all. So for certain countries like Oman or Thailand, it's only 4%. However, for countries like Malaysia or South Africa, then the percentage is up to 45 or 47%. So next time when you see a comment on a certain video bragging about scoring a band of 7.5, 8 or 8.5, the first thing is you should ask yourself whether that person represents you. What if they come from a different background, from a different country where English is used as a medium there, and they just happen to watch that video? So it doesn't necessarily apply to your case. It doesn't represent you. Now, this section will completely change your mind about the comments that you see. Actually, if we examine those comments, if we take a deeper look, you will quickly notice that there is a pattern there. It's always, most of the time, 8.5 in listening. And based on the data, do you actually know the percentage of people who score a band of 8 or 8.5 is only 1% in some cases? So when I see someone telling me that they got a band of 8.5 or 9 in listening, it tells me immediately that they come from a medium of English. They come from a background or a country where English is widely used.